Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Briefing. The high-level China-US economic and trade talks have been held for 2 consecutive days in Geneva. According to foreign media reports citing sources, the second day of closed-door talks will begin at 10 a.m. local time on Sunday. Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Trade Representative Catherine Tai attended the talks. On Saturday, the two countries' representatives held high-level economic and trade talks in Geneva that lasted 8 hours. After the first day of talks, neither side issued any statements regarding the content of the discussions, nor did they reveal any concrete signs of progress on tariff reductions. US President Trump stated on social media that both sides have begun negotiations on a comprehensive restart in a friendly and constructive manner. Regardless of whether this round of China-US talks yields results, there are a few observations. First, the representatives from both sides talked for 8 hours on the first day and continued discussions on the second day. At the very least, they did not break off talks as soon as they sat down, which suggests that both sides are willing to de-escalate tensions. Second, after the first meeting, there was no information leaked from either side, which shows that both parties do not want to provoke dissatisfaction by releasing details, again proving that both sides want to cool things down. Third, China-US relations are still at a low point. During the first day of meetings, they did not have lunch together. After having lunch separately, the talks continued. Fourth, at present, tariffs between China and the US have both exceeded 100%. This means that the two countries have almost completely stopped trading with each other. From a modern perspective, this can be interpreted as the two countries having entered a state of hostility. Regarding the arrangements for this Geneva negotiation, some political commentators in the mainland have described it as having a flavor reminiscent of Cold War ceasefire talks, fighting while negotiating. Even in the choice of location, neither side would concede on who is the neutral country, and the flight distance from the capitals of both China and the US to Geneva is about the same, so there's no question of either side having an advantage. As for the venue, it's the residence of the Swiss ambassador to the United Nations, so both delegations have to travel there by car, meaning neither side has home advantage. That's why it's worth mentioning the location and arrangements of the negotiations. At the same time, if you observe the US nowadays, in all its negotiations with other countries or blocs, it's always the representatives of those countries or blocs who fly to Washington to negotiate with the US. This is exactly the atmosphere Trump wants to create. It creates a situation where envoys from all sides come to the US to seek reconciliation. The recent framework agreement between the US and UK was negotiated by British representatives traveling to Washington. This is what Trump wants, a scenario where the other side comes to him, highlighting America's superpower status. Yet, globally, only China has forced the US delegation to leave America and go to a third country for negotiations. The negotiation arrangements also underscore the principle of equal treatment. This has always been China's primary principle in dealing with the US, to make the US learn. This also reflects that on the one hand, China has strength, and on the other hand, its strategy and tactics are well executed. As both the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Commerce have stated, when facing the US's unfair so-called reciprocal tariffs, if China were to respond passively or compromise, it would not earn respect. Only by responding firmly and forcefully has China managed to bring the negotiations back to a level playing field. China's determination also seems to have exceeded the expectations of US officials. On May 10th, CNN reported that officials at US West Coast ports revealed a startling phenomenon on the morning of the 9th. In the past 12 hours, not a single cargo ship had departed from China for the major ports on the US West Coast. This is the first time such a situation has occurred since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. The report said that as of 6 days earlier, there had originally been plans for 41 cargo ships to depart from China for this port, which is the 5th busiest port in the world after Shanghai, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Shenzhen. But by the 9th, that number had dropped to 0. According to CNN, what shocked US port officials was not only the sharp drop in the number of cargo ships arriving from China itself. Even more surprising is the speed at which this change has happened. Mario Cordero, the CEO of the Port of Long Beach, said this is concerning. He said that right now, the number of cancelled sailings and the reduction in arriving vessels has surpassed the levels seen during the pandemic. According to CNN, this is another unusual phenomenon that has never occurred since the outbreak of the pandemic. Due to the impact of tariff policies, the number of container ships arriving at Seattle's Terminal 7 is 0. And it's not just Seattle. several of the busiest ports in the United States are experiencing a sharp decline in cargo volume. It is understood that currently the container volume at the Port of Long Beach has dropped by 35% to 40% compared to normal levels, and this week, cargo volume at the Port of Los Angeles has also fallen by 31%. In addition, the ports of New York and New Jersey on the East Coast have also stated that they are preparing for a slowdown in cargo traffic. According to reports, port officials have warned that for American consumers facing rising prices or shortages of goods, the sooner the US government and China reach an agreement, the better. Cordero said that if the situation changes rapidly, what will happen to us? We might see empty shelves, and consumers could feel this impact within the next 30 days. During Trump's first term, he also initiated a trade war with China. In comparison, this time China is much better prepared for additional tariffs. Almost all Chinese suppliers are standing firm and refusing to bear the extra tariffs, even if it means not shipping goods. If it weren't for the unified pricing at US ports, the prices of Chinese cargo ships wouldn't have dropped so dramatically. Next, the cargo turnover at small and medium-sized ports in the US will also drop significantly. Besides the tariffs triggering China's countermeasures and causing trouble for the US economy, American media have pointed out that Trump doesn't seem happy about returning to the White House, as he's finding that solving global issues is much more difficult than he imagined. The Washington Post published an article revealing this on May 10th. Regarding his inability to quickly end the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Trump has privately admitted that he feels frustrated. Last week in Florida, he candidly told a group of top donors that his efforts to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict are making him feel increasingly defeated, to the point where he's even losing sleep over it. According to attendees, Trump said that Russian President Putin is especially difficult to negotiate with. He complained that neither Russia nor Ukraine is willing to compromise and that Russia wants to annex the whole of Ukraine. Trump also mentioned that the Israel-Palestine conflict is equally thorny, saying that both sides have been fighting for 1,000 years and that finding a solution is extremely difficult. The article notes that during last year's campaign, Trump boasted that he would end both conflicts through diplomacy. He claimed that if he had been in the White House at the time, neither of these two conflicts would have broken out. He even claimed that he could end the Russia-Ukraine war on his very first day in office. But now, after his second term has already passed the 100-day mark, neither of the two conflicts shows any sign of getting closer to a resolution. Not only have negotiations over the Iran nuclear issue reached a deadlock, but the trade war has also strained America's relationships with its allies. Trump has found that solving global problems is much harder than he imagined. Daniel Baer, who once served as an ambassador under the Obama administration and now works at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Washington, said that while bluffing and putting on a show can be effective in the high-wire act of diplomacy, details and hard work are just as important. Not long ago, Trump said that his claim about ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict in a single day was just a joke, and his supporters also know that such statements are exaggerated. Hal Brands, a professor at Purdue University who studies U.S. foreign policy, said that if Trump repeatedly makes such promises during his campaign, is it unfair to criticize him for not being able to fulfill them? These promises are indeed extremely unfair, but they are still promises. This week, White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre defended by saying that Trump and his team have always been focused on achieving peace globally and to prevent bad actors from causing harm to Americans and their allies. In addition, on May 10th, Trump once again took credit, claiming that the United States helped facilitate the ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan, but almost immediately after his statement, India quickly refuted Trump. Sources from the Indian government made it clear that the India-Pakistan ceasefire was the result of direct negotiations between the two countries and had nothing to do with the United States. In recent weeks, Trump has privately complained to his advisors that Putin does not want to end the conflict and that both sides refuse to compromise. According to insiders, Trump also asked whether they thought Putin had changed since his last time in power, and expressed surprise at Putin's military actions. On the Gaza issue, the Trump administration has also been pushing for negotiations to end the war between Israel and Hamas. Back in January this year, just minutes before Trump's inauguration, the the current U.S. Middle East envoy Veltkov had assisted the outgoing Biden administration in implementing a ceasefire plan. However, that agreement broke down in March, and the war has since resumed. Israel has blocked all aid from entering Gaza, triggering an increasingly severe humanitarian crisis. A U.S. government official expressed disappointment over Israel's resumption of hostilities in Gaza. As for the Iran nuclear issue, some U.S. officials revealed that the Trump administration's stance on Iran's nuclear program was also ambiguous and sparked significant internal debate. Trump claimed that negotiations with Iran on the nuclear issue were progressing smoothly, as stated by the current U.S. Middle East envoy, Veltkov. He has already held indirect meetings with Iran's rivals 3 times to discuss ways to curb Iran's nuclear program. This weekend, a 4th meeting will be held in Oman. Veltkov proposed that if Iran agrees to dismantle its nuclear program and purchase enriched uranium from the United States, the U.S. will lift sanctions and abandon military action. However, up to now, Iran still insists on keeping its centrifuges and has shown no signs of abandoning its nuclear program. The United States also does not have a clear stance on the specific definition of dismantlement. Trump has threatened that if Iran refuses to strictly limit its nuclear program, the U.S. will take military action, but he has not been able to convince most of the other allies, French Foreign Minister Barrot said in an interview. Countries like France believe that even tougher measures than those in the 2015 nuclear agreement are needed, but they have no plans to use military force. To sum up simply, whether in diplomacy or trade, in his first 100 days in office, Trump has not managed to accomplish anything to his satisfaction. Right now, Trump and his team are underestimating the complexity of global industrial and supply chains, from the prioritization of diplomatic agendas to the order in which they choose negotiation partners. It can be said that even the United States is in disarray,